What's up, guys? This is Jay from COI. So, I want to talk about a couple stories. One is about Rayshard Brooks. The other is about Matt Holmes. Matt Holmes was a guy who was killed by the police in my area, in Kansas, about 2 years ago. Well, we were having a protest in my town, and the local activists got together, and some of the supporters of BLM got a hold of me and said, "Hey, can you help promote this? Can you participate in this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I thought it was for George Floyd. Thought it was for BLM. Said, "Yeah, I'd love to." Then I found out it was for Matt Holmes, and I had to decline. I took a lot of shit for it, and still am, by the way. So what happened with Matt Holmes is he was harassing his ex-girlfriend. He'd basically been stalking her for quite a while. He was peeping into her windows, and she called the cops. The cops went to apprehend him. He jumped in his car, drove on the interstate, and they chased him. They did a pit maneuver, pulled him out of the car, wrestled him down, and as they were handcuffing him, he grabbed one of the officers' gun. And when he grabbed their gun, they shot him and killed him. So, look, there are circumstances about that situation. Number one, I don't think cops should be chasing people. Unless they are a danger to the people around them. Most of the time, when cops chase people, they just make the situation worse. The driver becomes more erratic, more accidents happen, and the biggest way officers die in the line of duty is police chases. So I don't think they should do that. But, the other hand, I don't think we should set the precedent that it's okay to grab a cop's gun. Because when you grab a cop's gun, his life is in danger and he is threatened. And he has the right at that point. Um, so Rayshard Brooks, and we've all seen that, whether it be Wendy's trending Friday night or Justice for Rayshard or however you know about the story. Rayshard Brooks was inebriated. He was sleeping in a Wendy's drive-thru. Cop woke him up a couple times, had to have him move his vehicle. The cop and Rayshard talked for 20, 30 minutes. And this whole video is online, by the way. And I think you should watch it because any preconceptions you have of either one of them will probably change. Both were, uh, incredibly polite to each other. I would say the first 90%, 95% of the video is kind of how you would like the whole situation to go down. Both were, like I said, very, very cordial to each other. And anyway, though, they did determine that Mr. Brooks was inebriated, so they started handcuffing him. He fought back. They tased him. He grabbed the taser and ran. Now, how he grabbed the taser, I don't know. Was it just attached to him, and when he got up and ran, it came out of the cop's hand, or did he physically grab it out of the cop's hand? I don't know. And it's hard to say. I don't think we will know. But as he was running away, the cop shot him, killed him. We have video to prove all of that went down, including him running away and being shot by the cop. So the cops said they shot him because they felt like their life was in danger. Now, I'd like to know how somebody running away from you, with a taser or not, makes you think your life's in danger. I call BS on that. And I think every one of us would agree your life's not in danger when somebody is running away from you with a taser. You shoot them in the back. That is unjustified. That is, it's murder, is what it is. Especially because Mr. Brooks had not been charged with anything. Um, and I know that people have said, well, look, he was driving inebriated. He wasn't a good guy, is what they say. And he had illicit drugs in his car. You see? This is those people. Well, I would again tell you, yeah, if you're watching Fox News, if you're hearing stories about him and he doesn't seem like a good guy, I would watch the video. I would definitely watch the video. Um, he seemed incredibly polite. It seemed like he was really concerned more about his daughter and more concerned about other things in his life. Um, like I said, I can't, and I don't really care, honestly, the character, um, because it's irrelevant here. What is important is a cop shot a guy who was running away from him and claimed that he felt like his life was threatened. We don't want to set that precedent either. That if you're running away from a cop, they can shoot you and kill you. Now, luckily, we're not going to have to because the officer has already been arrested. Um, and I will say, too, by the way, that if the officer can say that they felt like their life was in danger because of a taser, then it's just as fair to say that a civilian can say that they feel like their life's in danger when they're being tased, when a taser is being pointed at them. And if you read the Constitution, if you understand the Constitution, you would actually understand why this was also unconstitutional, what happened. But I digress. Bo of the Fifth Column, he's a YouTuber. He brought up a really good point. It's been a few weeks ago, maybe even longer. He talked about police officers who go by the letter of the law or the spirit of the law. I think it was a really good way to put things. And in this scenario, I think incredibly insightful. Because this would have been a much different situation had the officers gone with the spirit of the law. You know, the letter of the law, it's officers looking to make arrests. It's officers looking to move up through the ranks. They're going to do everything by the book, including fuck you over if they can. But spirit of the law. Spirit of the law is police officers who are more concerned with the safety of the community, doing the right thing by the community. And rather it be the person that they're pulling over or somebody who lives down the street from that incident. In every way possible, going by the spirit of the law here would have been a better move. For one, police officers are only about 46% accurate. So that means when they shoot a gun, 64% of the time, their bullets are missing the mark. Now, what if one of these officers who was shooting Rayshard Brooks shot a passerby, shot a civilian, had nothing to do with it? Bullet went into a home, killed a kid. No reason for it. No reason for it at all. Not to say that it's not sad enough that they just murdered a guy. But there's a point in the video where Mr. Brooks asks them, look, can I just leave my car here and just walk home? I can just go home that way. It would have been so amazing if they would have said, yeah, you're too inebriated to drive. Why don't you walk home? Or better yet, let's give you a ride home. So they know he's not going to get back in that car. They drive him home. They know where he's at. And he just had the scare of a lifetime. So he's most likely not going to get back out and go to that car. Think of what would have been saved. A man's life. Officers' jobs, who, by the way, without that one incident, I would have said these cops were doing the right thing. Up until that moment. I want to be clear on that. The hardship, too, of just the community. The hurt of this community. Of all of us at this moment. All could have been saved had they just went by the spirit of the law and said, look, We enforce driving under the influence because we don't want people to hurt other people while driving. We don't want someone to kill an innocent person because someone could not handle their booze and had to go drive. That's why we enforce that law. We can send this guy home, put him in our car, and we are doing that job. We are enforcing that law without having to get crazy about it, without having to have a gunfight, essentially. Oh, not a gunfight, a murder. Now, granted, the officer probably didn't know it was going to turn out that way. But there's a lot of headache that could be saved in day to day, not just in this extreme situation, but in day to day situations. I've been in a car before where we were pulled over. A friend of mine was texting, and she was just texting her babysitter, let her know she was on her way. It's stupid. Should have pulled it, and she should have pulled over to send the text, but she didn't. She told the cop, and the cop said, "Look, just don't do it again. If I catch you doing this again, you're in trouble." And that seems fair, right? Well, think about this. People who text and drive are more lethal than people who drink and drive. I don't think either one should be something that we practice. But I think if a cop can do his job and make sure the community is safe without having to arrest somebody, he should always go that route. Because even at its best, is driving under the influence, is that punishable by death? No, not at all. We really need to think about reform. These cops need to train. They need to retrain how to do their job. Instead of getting numbers, instead of how many people can they arrest, how quickly they can work up through the ranks, instead of their effectiveness being gauged on how many arrests they make, it needs to be on how much peace they keep. How much peace is caused in their sectors of a town or a city. I think that we would see a drastic change in a lot of events if that is how they gauged an officer doing a good job. How well does the officer know his community? Anyway, that's just my input, and I think these are the things that we have to think about moving forward. When we think about how best to change things, it's not joining Nancy Pelosi and taking a knee or being on board with Donald Trump and being law and order everything, even though, yeah, some could argue that he's not exactly lawful himself. We have to change the whole system. We have to change incentives. It can't be on arrest numbers alone. Or if at all, honestly. I mean, what a measure of society is by having more people locked up. What does that say about our society? I mean, either way you look at it, it's a damning number. Hey, we can arrest more people. We can lock more of our citizens behind bars than any other country, than any other town, than any other state. Why is that something we would want? And I think if you're not behind that kind of reform, or defunding the police in that matter, because that's really what defunding the police is about, is reforming. I think you really would have to think about moving forward what that means for you if you are not for that. That means you're cool with being an opportunity. You're an opportunity for a police officer to pad his stats, to move up through the ranks, because he sees you and, he's got a busted taillight. I need a citation. I need this on my my stats that I have numbers, that I've been doing my job. But meanwhile, it could fuck you over. If he just would say, hey, look, just get it fixed. Or if he writes you a $400 ticket. That's small. And that's most likely the only impact you'll have. But if you're black, it could be what happened to Mr. Brooks. Because 1 in 1,000 black men will be killed by the police. That's horrible. Horrible, horrible fucking numbers. 1 in 1,000. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on the whole thing. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. How you think, we should reform. What would be your idea? How do you think this whole thing could turn around for the better? And I think, 90% of the country agrees we do need to talk about reform. How do we get to reform? What is the path to that? Like I said, I'm for more of changing the entire, stick and carrot kind of, incentive system that we have going on with our cops. We shouldn't train them to be pit bulls. We need to train them to be golden retrievers. If you know dogs, one is obviously aggressive, the other one is more of a defender. We need our police officers to care more about creating peace than creating chaos. And I think that if they were given promotions, if they were, given raises, allowed to keep their job because their community was more peaceful, I think they would work harder towards peace. And I think if the tickets they write, if their arrest records were a little bit more thoroughly investigated, maybe they wouldn't do it as much. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. You have a good evening.